G'day folks, Sapper here with another World of Warships video. Welcome to Bluff, or Bottom Line Up Front, a series where I review ships but give you the need to know first thing and the in-depth meat further on. Think of it as a ship review video but with a TLDR. Colorado is slow, but has punchy guns. With North Carolina, the US Navy battleships take a different design direction, more speed, and a modern armor scheme. But how does North Carolina perform after all these years? Does she have what it takes to be good in 2020? Let's find out. Here is my review of the Tier 8 US Navy battleship, North Carolina. The bluff for North Carolina is that she is a great ship in every regard. North Carolina is reasonably quick, decently tanky, and has amazing guns. If you were to nitpick, her only negative is that her shells have a long travel time. Even when factoring in premiums, North Carolina is a contender for the strongest battleship at Tier 8 and is worth every minute of the grind to unlock her. North Carolina is the first truly modern battleship moving up the US Navy tech tree, being armed with 9 406mm guns in triple turrets and a modern armor scheme. This modern armor scheme means that she is the first US Navy battleship to reach a respectable 27.5 knots. This is one of the slowest speeds at Tier 8, but when there's very little speed difference between most battleships, excluding Kansas, it doesn't impact gameplay in any significant manner. With this modern armor scheme, North Carolina has 32mm plating in most areas, with a 38mm deck in the midsection at the base of the superstructure. This 38mm means that most HE spammers, even with IFHE, won't penetrate this deck area. The exceptions being 155s like those seen on Mogami, and German cruiser HE shells in general. This 38mm isn't as great as it sounds, as North Carolina has a large superstructure area that is fairly easy to hit, meaning that most ships can HE farm North Carolina as with any other Tier 8 battleship. North Carolina has a waterline citadel, similar to Colorado, and as such will eat broadside penetrations a fair bit, but fewer citadels compared to some other battleships at Tier 8. Unfortunately, North Carolina's vertical-facing citadel area is large, which means that AP dive bombers can get citadels over a wider area compared to some ships. This is not unique to North Carolina. Royal Navy battleships share this trait, but it is worth noting. Thankfully, North Carolina has great AA for tier, generally preventing multiple passes by at-tier aircraft carriers, and in combination with good positioning, most aircraft carriers will leave you alone and go after softer targets. North Carolina has excellent concealment for tier at 12.3 km with full concealment build, and a respectable turning circle, rudder shift, and 66,000 health. Where North Carolina is amazing is her gunnery. With a 23km range and 9 very accurate guns, she can comfortably perform well at all ranges. These guns do not fire the same shells as the preceding Colorado. The shells are the super heavy US battleship shells that maintain excellent penetration at range, but do not have the improved penetration angles as seen on the US heavy cruisers. The trade-off is that North Carolina's shells take a long time to reach their target, which gives enemies a lot of time to change course or speed to mitigate damage. It also means that it can be harder for players without good aiming skills to hit targets at longer ranges, even when compared to battleships of other navies. A positive side to the low velocity and heavy weight is that the shell arcs are quite high, and it is possible to get citadels with plunging fire in some situations. Overall, North Carolina's gunnery is amazing if you can aim well. You can get a surprising number of penetrations at times, even if you aren't blessed with divine shell groupings, although these do happen more often than you would expect. One last point that should be noted is North Carolina's torpedo protection. She only has 19%, which is the worst among Tier 8 battleships. This isn't a huge gameplay factor, as she is a long-range battleship with great concealment and AA, so most of the time the threats to her shouldn't be torpedo-based. If the threats to North Carolina are torpedo-based, you've likely made a positioning error, or you are taking a calculated risk. The way to play North Carolina is similar to most run-of-the-mill battleships at higher tiers. Position safely and engage at range. When the time is right, push or retreat with your team. The differences between basic and advanced level players will largely come down to target selection and positioning. If you are a basic level player, make sure you stay with your team and engage targets that you can hit. Static or predictable cruisers and battleships are your go-to. North Carolina overmatches the bows and sterns of all cruisers in the game, excusing icebreaker sections, so keep this in mind. If you are an intermediate or advanced level player, after considering your situation and team lineups, North Carolina can position in a variety of places, such as on a flank, as part of a fighting withdrawal, or in a central anchor position. With her range, concealment, and functional speed, she can perform well in many conditions in a fire support role. Advanced players will also be able to better work with North Carolina's slow shells and get hits on active targets at long ranges. When top tier, North Carolina can be a bully. When bottom or middle tier, she is an excellent gun platform and can still see decent results. Compared to her peers at tier 8, North Carolina isn't as tanky or as quick, but has an excellent turret configuration which allows some effective bow tanking and a good armor scheme that can be forgiving at times. Her guns are the best in tier thanks to their accuracy, but if you struggle with her slow shell velocity, you may prefer battleships from other nations. North Carolina is a good all-round ship with amazing guns, and in high-tier play, good guns are often the deciding factor. North Carolina can reward players of all skill levels, providing that they are patient, position well, and have learned how to aim. On to the build. For modules, pick up hull first. Yes, it's expensive, but it gives you a massive 12,300 health and beefs up your mid-range AA, not to mention improves your rudder shift. After that, pick up engine and then range mod. Consumables, North Carolina has improved DCP and improved heal and plane options. For planes, it really comes down to personal preference, but I take spotter for the increased range. For upgrades, main battery 1, Damcon 1, turret traverse, Damcon 2, and concealment. On to captain skills. Expert loader for those times when a wild destroyer appears, and because I'm running Halsey. Otherwise, preventative maintenance. Then pick up adrenaline rush, basics of survivability, and fire prevention for 10 points. Then concealment expert for 14, superintendent for 17, and expert marksman for 19. Halsey and the Doe brothers are ideal candidates thanks to their buffed expert loader and expert marksman skills. The full bottom line is that North Carolina is arguably the strongest battleship at tier 8, even when considering some of the strong premiums such as Massachusetts or Lennon. With the exception of torpedo damage reduction, in her weaker areas North Carolina is respectable, and in her strong areas such as gunnery and AA, she is among the best in the tier. While she is tier 8 and can see tier 10 matches, with a little bit of care, North Carolina can perform perfectly well thanks to a nice combination of good range, concealment, and gunnery. North Carolina is simply a great battleship. So how does North Carolina compare for noobs or skills? North Carolina loses points compared to her peers in torpedo protection and slow shell speed, but she gains points in gunnery, AA, turret configuration, improved DCP, and improved heal. North Carolina is great, but has poor torpedo damage reduction and slow shell speed, both of which are minor nitpicks. So for the scores, Noobometer, 8 out of 10. North Carolina has a lot of good traits, and if basic level players can get their fundamental skills right and work with her slow shells, she will reward them with good results even when bottom tier. Skillometer, 10 out of 10. Advanced level players will more easily be able to work with North Carolina's slow shells and will be able to influence the outcome of tier 10 matches some of the time. My recommendation is not to free XP anything and kick back and enjoy playing one of the best stock ships in the game, keeping in mind your health pool will be shallow. If you do have a lot of free XP lying around, save it. You will unlock Iowa and be a little sad that you finished North Carolina. Even for those of you with limited port space, North Carolina is worth keeping long term. North Carolina is an amazing ship, even in 2020. So what did you think of North Carolina or this review? Did you agree with my assessment? Let me know down in the comments. For me, I knew North Carolina was decent going into this, having played her years ago on the PTS and owning in Massachusetts. But I was stunned at how good she was, and I had to try and find justifications for not naming her best in class at tier. Next up is Iowa. Can she live up to North Carolina's quality, or will she be the start of a decline? We'll find out in the next episode of Bottom Line Up Front. Thanks for watching, stay healthy, and I'll catch you in the next one.